Greetings, I'm Randy. Thank you for joining me for this presentation of tips, tricks, and best practices for wrapping up the year in Schoology. So, what does it take to end the year with success as a Schoology teacher? I like to think of it as two simple steps during my last month of school. First, I focus on collecting and grading any missing or incomplete student work and review my gradebook and final grades to make sure everything is in order for the end of the year. Then, before I leave for vacation, I save my entire set of Schoology course materials to my resources area, which makes it easy for me to reuse them again next year. In this video lesson, we'll first take a quick review of archived courses in Schoology. Then, we'll take a look at some tips and tricks to streamline our efforts to finalize submissions and grades. Lastly, we'll wrap up with a quick demonstration of how to save my course to resources, which makes it easy again to reuse them all next year. Let's get started. First, we'll begin with a quick review of archived courses in Schoology. What are they, when it happens, why they exist, and where to find them. Once a semester or school year ends in Schoology, all of my active courses will automatically go into my archive. An archived course preserves all of my previous course materials, course updates, even the student submissions and posts to discussions and assessments, and the student roster and the student gradebook. Schoology courses will automatically archive about 24 to 30 hours after the final date of the grading period in my school. I can always access my archived courses at any time under my Courses, My Courses, and Archived area. Here's a quick look. During the school year, when I'm teaching, all of my courses are available to me either on the Courses menu or on my course dashboard page. Once the semester or school year ends and my courses are archived, on the Courses menu in the upper right, I can click on the My Courses link, and then I will have an Archived button, which will have a complete archive of every class I've ever taught in Schoology. The archived page is organized by the past marking periods or terms, so look for those as you're hunting for past classes. Remember, a Schoology course automatically archives about 24 hours after the end date of the final grading period. You can check that in your course by going to the course options under your course photo and then the edit info page. Look for that last marked grading period and the end date that's associated with it. In Mount Vernon, that end date is June 30th, which means about sometime on July 1st, your course will no longer appear in your Courses menu or your course dashboard, but can easily be found under the Courses, My Courses, and Archived listing. Remember, Schoology never deletes any course materials, and you can always access your archived courses at any time. This is a good moment to pause and make a quick jot note. Do you know when your Schoology courses will go from active to archived? Remember, it's going to be that end date of the final grading period, and then you'll be able to find your courses under Courses, My Courses, Archived. Now let's take a look at some tips and best practices to streamline our work in finalizing student submissions and final grades for the year. During the last month of school, it's always a good idea to remind students of deadlines about submitting any late or missing work. However, if there are any assignments from the previous marking period or semester that I don't want to allow students to submit any additional work, I might want to use the lock option for those assignments or discussions. If you've never used the lock option, remember, lock allows me to lock an assignment from accepting student submissions. Here's a quick look. Here I am in my course, and this past Tour of the Butterflies assignment, if I go to Edit, all the way at the bottom in this little row of options is the lock tool. Lock basically prevents students from being able to make another submission or submit work for this assignment. With the locking tool, I can either lock it right away using Lock Now, or I can set it and forget it by setting up a future date and say, I'm going to give students up until the end of the second week of June before they can no longer submit additional work or submissions to this assignment. So in assignments or discussions, look for that little options lock icon if you want to prevent students from being able to submit any additional work to that assignment or discussion. Another quick way to keep students informed of deadlines is to remember to mark assignments in my gradebook using Schoology's missing or incomplete exceptions. It makes it easy for students and for me as a teacher to find those items in my gradebook. Here's a quick look. Here in my teacher gradebook, I can apply those exceptions for a student for an assignment by clicking on the little flag icon in the lower left of a cell to either mark it as incomplete or as missing. For students in my class, when students are looking at their grades report page, it makes it easy for students to scan and see those incomplete and missing exceptions marked on their grades report page. So during the final month of school, it's important to communicate deadlines to our students about the submission of any late or missing work. We might have some assignments that we've locked for further submissions, and we want to remember to mark our assignments with the missing or incomplete sections to both help ourselves and our students find those items easily later on. Here are some additional tips to simplify and streamline our work when we're reviewing our gradebook and final grades at the end of the year. Checking for missing assignments to grade late submissions. If I've been using the missing or incomplete exceptions throughout the semester, it makes it easy for me to use the View menu to streamline and find those items. I can use the Marked Missing with Submission filter, which will highlight for me all of the student submissions that students have turned in after I marked it as missing. Let's take a quick look. So here's my gradebook with a number of student submissions or missing or incomplete items. When I use the View filter, I can see Schoology give me some shortcuts to say, Schoology, show me any previously marked missing assignments where the student has actually turned in work that I need to review. And when I turn on the filter, it'll highlight those cells in gray. I can use these filters in an additive mode, so I can see all missing, including the missing with submission. And I'll see those additional cells highlighted. Or I can check and uncheck the filters to apply them one at a time. So don't miss taking advantage of those View filters to streamline the work in finding late submissions that I need to review or score before the end of the school year. It's important to ensure that all of my graded items are calculating properly for students and syncing back to our SIS accurately. The bulk edit page in Schoology allows me an all-in-one glance to ensure that A, all of my graded items are indeed published, B, that they use the correct grading category, that they have an assigned due date, and that they're aligned to the correct grading period. So ensuring that all of my graded items are published, assigned to the right category, have a due date, and appear in the grading period can all be done on the all-in-one bulk edit page. I can access the bulk edit from my gradebook and then the three dots menu in the upper right with the bulk edit option. Some teachers, commonly at the end of the school year, need to add additional outside of Schoology work to record activities or grades that occurred offline or in class outside of Schoology. Things such as performance projects, field trips, or extra credit opportunities. You can use the Add Grade column in your gradebook to add those individual items, or an alternative strategy some teachers use is to add an assignment but disable the submissions for that assignment. If you find that you want to use an override column in your gradebook to manually enter a final calculated marking period or overall course grade, don't forget that in the grade setup page of your course, you can check off the boxes to add that course override or the grading period override columns for you to use. Lastly, on the grade setup page, those final calculated grade options, the override columns, and then whether you're choosing to show or hide information that appears for students on their student grade report in Schoology. So here's a little self-check on finalizing submissions and grades. We want to make sure we're communicating deadlines for final and late work submissions for students. Are there any assignments in our gradebook that need those exceptions applied? It makes it easier for students to find. Is there any submitted work that I need to review or final grade? Remembering that unpublished materials do not get calculated into overall or period grades, so we want to make sure that we republish those in order to factor into the calculated averages. Is there any graded work outside of Schoology that I want to add using the Add Grade column? Or might I want to use the override columns to manually override final calculations of marking period averages or overall course grades? And are those final grade settings accurate in my grade setup? So let's wrap up with looking at the simple steps for packing for vacation by saving our course materials to resources. Why? Saving our course materials to resources is the easiest way to be able to reuse our course materials and curriculum again next year or next semester. It also makes it easier during the summer or right before back to school for me to be able to update my course materials in preparation for the new semester or year. I want to save my course materials after I am no longer assigning course materials to my current students and before the end of the final grading period. Saving my course wraps up the entire bundle of my entire course curriculum in one simple folder and saves it in one easy step. It's really simple. We're going to use the options Save Course to Resources in each of our Schoology courses. Now this first step is more of a recommendation. It's not technically required, but it helps keep things organized later on. So step one, we're going to get organized by building a resource collection for the current school year. Here's how. So to get organized before we save our courses, I'm going to go to the resource menu in my account. And here under the personal resources, this little golden box icon will allow me to add a collection. And I'm just going to title it the current school year. So 2021 school year. This will make a new collection over here on the left where I'll be able to save all of my course materials. First, we get organized by creating that new resource collection. Then, in each of our Schoology courses, we simply go to the Options button and we'll use the Save Course to Resources to save our entire bundle or set of materials to that new collection we created. Here's how. So here I just finished creating that new collection for the current school year. Now when I go back to my course, when I'm ready to save my course materials to resources, I'm going to use the Options button, Save Course to Resources, and I'm going to choose to put it in that new collection. I'll click Submit. Now it might take a little bit of time for Schoology to finish making that entire copy of your course materials, but if you give it just a few minutes, or you can check your transfer history, I'm going to go back to Resources, and then I look in that new collection, and I will find that complete folder of all of my previous course materials, resources, folders, and assignments. Here's a final quick power tip. If you ever need to check your transfer history later on, I'm going to click on my name in the upper right. I'm going to scroll down and go to my account settings. And then under my account settings page, I'll have the transfer history tab. And here's where I can see a complete history of each of the times when I've saved my course materials to resources. So saving our course to resources basically makes an entire Xerox copy of all of my posted folders, assignments, discussions, and resources. Student information and student submissions are not included in the copy. It's just my curriculum. And if I've been using Google Drive assignments or OneDrive assignments, because those items are tied to a specific student roster, the assignment title and basic information will be included in the copy, but not the attached OneDrive or Google Drive assignment item. The last power tip, if you're busy at the end of the school year and you don't quite get around to saving your courses to resources before the end of the school year, that's okay. No worries, because you can always go back to your archived course and use the Save Your Course to Materials to Resources from there as well. Just remember, it's not recommended that the teachers modify or edit course materials in their archived courses. So here's our quick little self-check. A, when we're ready to save our course to resources, we'd want to do that after we're no longer creating any new course materials in our courses and before the last date of the final grading period. So we first would create a new collection to stay organized in our resources area. Then for each of our Schoology courses that we taught this semester or this past year, I go to Options, Save Course to Resources. Just know that even after your course is archived, you can still do that process then. So 2 big ideas in the final month of school. We're finalizing the grading and collecting of submitted student work and reviewing our gradebook for final grades. And then before we leave for vacation, we're going to save our course to resources for later use. That's all. One important final tip for Google districts or Microsoft districts If teachers have been using the Microsoft OneDrive assignment in Schoology or the Schoology Google Drive assignment, just remember it's important, do not delete that Schoology folder that is created in your Microsoft OneDrive or Google Drive. You need to leave that Schoology Microsoft OneDrive assignments folder in your OneDrive or that Schoology Google Drive assignments folder in your Google Drive, because that's where all of the student copies and materials are kept, and you do not want to delete those folders from your OneDrive or Google Drive. Leave you with a couple of look-aheads. When we're prepping for next year, here's how it would all basically work. So commonly during the summer or during the early part just before school starts, a lot of faculty will just use those copies and resources to update and prepare curriculum and materials for the next school year. Then, during back to school, when we get our new courses created by our school or district, in those new courses, we'll use the add materials and then import from resources to pull those materials we saved from last year. We likely had grading categories, rubrics, and custom grading scales that we used in past courses, and we can easily go to those archived courses and use the copy grade settings to copy those same grading categories and weights, custom grading scales, or custom grading rubrics from archived courses into our new courses for the next year. In the attached handout for this presentation, I've included a bunch of links to all of the materials, including this presentation, which has those embedded links. A lot of the Schoology Support Center help articles are great with attached videos and how-to steps. And I want to thank you for taking the time to join me for this little tour of wrapping up the year with Schoology. And my name is Randy Hall, and thank you so much for coming.